Hi everyone, this is Praying Medic, and this is my QAnon update for Wednesday, March 7th. This update covers Q posts that began on March 3rd and go up until today. I just checked the Q pages, and right now I have everything caught up to date, although Q has been posting in the last couple of hours, so I'll make sure I have everything in this video when it goes to air. All right, couple of housekeeping things. Q has been posting. So Q had not posted for, over a week, and a lot of people got concerned. Some people got disheartened and thought Q was done. I have been hanging in there. I just know that Q is going to keep posting, so I don't get stressed about it. Q has posts that are available on a couple of different sites. Sometimes they get updated quickly, sometimes they don't. QAnonmap.github.io is one site I've been using, and that is this site. And I'm also checking QAnonposts.com. As I said, sometimes the sites get updated pretty quickly, sometimes they don't, so I go back and forth on them. I will also, from time to time, check in on the Great Awakening. Some of Q's newest posts have been on the Great Awakening, some of them have not. So I'm checking multiple sites. I also do check the Q research board, and that is where the Anons are responding to Q. And so that's a good place to go. Although I would recommend, and I need to say this, you can see some pretty disgusting images on 8chan, so I would just refrain from going around there too much. I only go there if I need to find out what the Anons are responding to. And I do look at what the Anons are saying in response to some of Q's posts. They have good information. I keep it strictly on the things that Q and the Anons are posting, and most of that stuff is pornography free. So, but I don't recommend going there just to look around. The Anons don't want you there, and stick to the Q posts sites, the GitHub site or the QAnonpost.com site. So I don't get complaints from people who are shocked when they go to 8chan and find out that there's pornography there. I try to make that very clear, that there's stuff there you don't want to see. So my theme for this series is boom, 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 boom. And you'll find out why if you don't know already. So this was a Q post from February 22nd. Actually, this is a post that I missed in my last update. And somebody sent me an email about it. Wanted to know what my take on it was. This particular post, I'm just going to read it for you. They want you divided. How can some be so blind? Help them wake up. Estimated 20 mm reached. Question everything. Keep talking. Stand up. Fight, fight, fight. How do they control children? What prevents a child from revealing the truth? So, pretty self-explanatory. Q has often said that the mainstream media and the puppet masters want us divided. That's why they create these false flags. They get us split up and arguing about different things. Q, I think, is saying that they've reached 20 million people with the message so far. With what we know about the CIA and their involvement, we're going to find out a lot more about that here in just a few minutes. We need to start questioning what we've been told. How do they control children? Well, one way to control children is fear. What prevents a child from revealing the truth? Well, if they have courage, and if they have boldness, and if they know the truth, they can tell the truth. And I think that is going to become a more important issue here in the next few weeks. So I'll move on to, and like I said, this was from the 22nd. So this post is from March 3rd. Just going to read it. Stay together, be strong, get organized, be heard. Fight the censorship. You, the people, have all the power. You simply forgot how to play. Together, you are invincible. They want you divided. They want you silenced. Make noise. We're with you. Make it rain. Q. So Q actually picked up on the same theme from the post that I missed last week. And again, pretty self-explanatory. They want us divided. They want us to keep talking. We cannot allow our voices to be silenced or censored. And make it rain. I'm not sure what that's about, but I kind of dig it. All right. And if you've been watching what's been happening on social media, one of the things that's concerning is a lot of the people who are actually posting YouTube videos about Q are being censored. Jerome Corsi has gotten strikes on his account, and his videos are down for a while. He's got 2 strikes. Alex Jones has 2 strikes on his account. Pretty soon he'll be gone. Titus Frost and a bunch of other people, mostly conservatives. They're getting harassment. And this is the kind of thing that Q has been asking us to fight and to not put up with it. So this is an article about the censorship of conservatives. And you know, it's not just YouTube, it's Facebook, it's Twitter. There has been a lot going on Twitter as far as censorship goes, and Facebook, of course. And you know, they want to control the narrative, and that means that they need to censor dissenting voices. This is an article. Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, has found a new way to demonize dissenting voices. Rather than admit that they're censoring political viewpoints, they say they're assessing the health of conversations. And this is an article on Fortune magazine where Dorsey talks all about assessing healthy conversations, as in, we don't want people who have views that are different from us. We don't want what we call hate speech to be heard. So they're repackaging censorship to make it more palatable for people. This is a Twitter thread that Jack Dorsey did. This is the first tweet in the thread. We're committing Twitter to help increase the collective health, openness, and civility of public conversation, and to hold ourselves publicly accountable toward progress. Yeah, well, that's what they say. But it's really, I think, a thin disguise for the fact that they're increasing censorship. If you're interested, you can come here on my Twitter timeline. This is the entire thread that Jack posted. It's a fairly extensive thread. I think he's got about 8 or 9 or 10 tweets on there. And it's just an apologetic for their new policies of censorship. You know, as far as they consider a healthy discussion, it's only viewpoints that oppose the views of the global elites and Silicon Valley think tanks that are considered to be unhealthy. And once they deem something to be unhealthy, well, it makes sense to get rid of it, doesn't it? And that's the narrative that you're trying to push. All right. This is Q's next post. Zebra_zebra, bring the thunder. Kill_box, brackets 1A-23X, light_T_1A-23-go5Q. And go5, I think, is a go signal. Killbox, we know from previous posts, is a reference to a targeting, and the killbox really is talking about initiating the first stages of an operation that is intended to take out a target. So these are one of the anons. I'll just go to the next one. One of the anons says, hey, these comms are not for us. These are for the operators in Q's team. White hats, Godspeed. And that does not mean we will never be able to understand these messages, but I don't think they're primarily intended for us. And the majority of what Q wants us to understand is not going to be found in these really cryptic messages. All right. Next post, Q has a lot of rhetorical questions. We need to pay close attention to sentence structure. missing an extra words, etc. I'm just going to read this. What I say, a class action lawsuit. When is it effective? Who controls the narrative? Who wrote the singular censorship algorithm? Who deployed the algorithm? Who instructed them to deploy the algorithm? Same embed across multiple platforms. Why? Why is timing relevant? Where is Snowden? Why did ES leave G? Why has NK out of the news cycle? Define false flag. What events change the news cycle? Why didn't LV change the news cycle? You have more than you know. Boom. Q. Speaking of class action lawsuits, a class action lawsuit was filed against Google for censorship, and there is also a lawsuit pending against Twitter by Chuck Johnson. So I guess the idea here is hit him where it hurts, hit him financially, and maybe we can get him to back off. Who wrote the censorship algorithm and who deployed it across multiple platforms? I'm going to guess somebody working with, for, or above Google, maybe the CIA. So this article reveals the many different ways in which Google can blacklist you. This is on US News. If you have not read this article, it is worth your time to read it. It's pretty frightening. The new censorship. So they go through and outline the many different ways in which Google can censor you. One way is through the autocomplete blacklist. And that is when you go on Google and you do a search, there's the autocomplete suggestions that come up below. And they can censor you right out of the autocomplete. And that has been done, as you can see, if you put in Crooked Hillary, you're not going to get straight up searches that you would. They're censoring all this. Another way is Google Maps blacklist. They can take your businesses and properties and other things off of Google Maps, take away the links, take away phone numbers, essentially remove you from Google Maps, which never used to be a big deal, but now people use Google Maps so much to get to places they want to go to. If they take you off the Google Maps algorithm, it would hurt your business. YouTube blacklist is another way. The Google account blacklist, they can take your account down and you won't even receive emails. People won't be able to find you. The Google News blacklist, now that Google is one of the largest providers of news, if they decide to take your news out of the algorithm, very few people are going to find it. There is the Google's AdWord blacklist. So if people are using AdWords as keywords to find your business or your blog, they can blacklist you. To show you the power that Google has, in May of 2016, Google blacklisted an entire industry. Companies that provided high-interest payday loans were taken out of the search algorithms. And of course, Google itself was a major investor in LendUp.com, which was in the payday industry. So if Google failed to blacklist LendUp, but blacklisted the rest of the entire industry of payday loans, they were essentially setting up their own company to have almost a monopoly in that business. There is the Google AdSense blacklist, where if your website or your business relies on keywords for advertisers, they can take you right out. Search engine blacklist, etc. So this is a very good article that shows the power of Google. Worth reading. All right. Moving along, this article on Eric Schmidt's goal of censoring the internet is pretty good. You can just put in Google's chairman wants algorithms to censor the internet for hate speech. And it's all couched as hate speech. The only way that they can get anyone to buy into their plan to censor is to say, well, you don't want hate speech, do you? That's what they're doing in Europe. People are now being arrested in Europe for expressing their viewpoints, and they justify it by saying, well, that's hate speech, and that's not protected. Even though the Supreme Court did uphold earlier this last year that hate speech is protected by the First Amendment. So there's a battle going on. So Q asks, where is Snowden? Not in Russia. Is he with Eric Schmidt? We're going to find out soon where Snowden is. Why did Eric Schmidt leave Google? Schmidt left Google the day that President signed the executive order freezing assets of corrupt people and organizations involved in human trafficking and human rights abuse. That was December 21st. That was when Eric Schmidt stepped down from Alphabet Google. Why is North Korea out of the news cycle? And actually, Q said, why has NK out of the news cycle? So some people have taken what they believe to be the missing letters from Q's posts on this one and rearranged them and came up with the last name of Chris Ray. I don't know that that is what Q is getting at. I don't know how that's relevant. To me, you can decode things, but if you can't point to why it's relevant or what it means, then it's not all that helpful. So I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just wondering what the relevance of that is. So to me, what's relevant is, why is North Korea out of the news cycle lately? The mainstream media news cycle. Well, North Korea is in the news, in the mainstream news, when it is to the elite's advantage. If North Korea is not in the news, it's because they're being turned from a rogue nation under CIA control to an ally, a unified Korea. That is not something that the elites and the CIA and the mainstream media would like. I follow this account on Twitter, Noon in Korea. They have really good reports on the Korean Peninsula. And they did a thread, and this was the night of March 5th, on South Korea sending a delegate of diplomats to talk to North Korea. And this is now Wednesday, and the delegates have gone there, and they've made some good changes. We'll see that in just a minute. So Q says, define a false flag. This is a Wikipedia link, and this is the first part of the Wikipedia entry. So a false flag refers to covert operations that are designed to deceive. The deception creates the appearance of a particular party, group, or nation being responsible for some activity disguising the actual source of responsibility. So essentially, a false flag is designed to make one group or people look like they're doing something when in fact it's actually somebody else. It's designed to conceal and cover the real source of an incident. All right. What events change the news cycle? And my answer is, false flags are intended to change the news cycle. Why didn't LV change the news cycle? The Las Vegas shooting wasn't a false flag. It was a covert operation that went sideways, and it had to be covered up. And if you are interested in knowing about what happened in Las Vegas, I would recommend going to Mike Closer's Periscope broadcast from December. And again, you can come to my Twitter page and find this link. If you go to Mike Closer's Twitter page, this is the pinned tweet on his page. And zoom ahead to 1 hour and 50 minutes. This is like a 2.5 hour long broadcast. Go to 1 hour and 50 minutes. And at that point, Mike starts talking about his, how he basically unpacks what actually happened at the Las Vegas shooting. And he has, for my money, the best explanation so far about what actually happened at Las Vegas. It was an attempted assassination that went bad. And then they created something like a false flag to cover up what was really going on. So Q says boom. Yeah, we're having some booms. All right, this is Q's next post. Where we go one, we go all. Misspellings matter. Sentence formation matters. Learn. Q. All right. So Q draws our attention to the man who killed himself outside the White House in this next post. And again, look at spelling and sentence structure. I'm just going to read it for you. A demonstration was made today in front of the White House. It showed they can control innocence, which is in quotes. It was a direct threat. This is not a game. The MSM is creating emotional conflict. This destabilizes certain minds to become susceptible to outside control. What you see is 2%. The war is real. These people are sick. Watch the news this week. Q. And of note is that the word you'd normally be susceptible is actually suspectable. Little play on words. I'm just wondering if Q is suggesting that, what is a suspect? A suspect is someone who is suspected of being involved in a crime. If you destabilize certain people who are susceptible to mind control, they become suspects. They get involved in crimes, criminal activity, and they become suspects. So I think Q is just using a play on word there. This is an article about the man who shot himself outside the White House. Reality is labeled as conspiracy. You are made to feel crazy. You are told to obey. You are sheep to them. Pawns to be sacrificed. Remember, we are winning. Do not trust what you read. Mind warfare. Up is down, left is right. Boom, Q. All right, so that's our second boom. And Q is again just helping us remember that they're lying to us and we need to be awake. Long one. I am going to read for you. The Bridge, 187, Bridge-2 at Snowden, Clowns, the link, Google/YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Russia ICBM Tech, HRC Open Source, SAP, JPTP, highest levels of USG, U1, NK. Why would Russia tell the world? Why? Why is SR back in the news? Why? Why is Sessions acting weak? Why? IG report? No legit leaks. MSM staging narrative. IG appointed by Sessions for? Why? Why? Enjoy the show. Dead cat bounce. Q. All right, long post. Let's unpack this puppy. So last week, Q posted about the Bridge and Stanislav Lunev. This week, the reference to the bridge is back, but it's Bridge-2. And my interpretation at that time was that the bridge reference was related to Snowden and spies. And this is The Bridge of Spies was a movie, it was a book. Took place in the 50s. It was essentially about the exchange of Russian and American spies. And I kind of thought that Q was getting at the idea that there's going to be an exchange of spies. Snowden is going to come to the U.S. So Q says that it is connected to a murder, which is a 187, Snowden, and the CIA clowns. I believe -2 is a countdown. I don't know what that means. Days, weeks, not sure. Maybe days, because we're going to see something here in just a minute. Link. I suspect that the link is a connection between Snowden, the CIA, Google, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Deep state and the elites try to control the public narrative through social media, and Snowden is somehow involved in that. He's a link. All right. Q mentioned Russia's, why would Russia tell the world about their nuclear technology? Last week, Vladimir Putin did a kind of the State of the Union message, and he boasted about Russia's new nuclear weapons that he believes are immune to interception, and he says they now have the upper hand in the nuclear arms race. So Q asks, why? Well, one reason is that Putin is facing an election on March 18th. A second reason was to deter Kim Jong-un from further nuclear weapons development. And this is an article that talks about North Korea meeting with South Korea, and the fact that North Korea says they're now willing to denuclearize the peninsula under certain conditions. I have a hard time believing that that was not affected in some way by Putin's announcement about their advanced nuclear weapons technology. So, just my thought. All right. Let's see. Continuing on that long thread, HRC open source with reference to Hillary's unsecured server, SAP special access programs. We've talked about that in past videos. Special access programs are the highest security intelligence, secured in special ways. You have to have a need to know. You have to go through special procedures to get access to this information. Hillary had them on her unsecured server. I believe they're going to incriminate JP, John Podesta, TP, Tony Podesta, and the highest levels of the U.S. government. So a lot of people from the Obama administration, probably people in FBI, DOJ, probably some people in CIA, maybe the Defense Department, whoever was involved. I mean, this is just going to be very bad for all of them. Has to do with their involvement in the Uranium One and operations in North Korea. All right. So Q asks, why is SR back in the news? I believe that is Seth Rich, not Susan Rice. Susan Rice has been in the news a little bit, but Seth Rich just popped up back in the news cycle over the last couple of days. Washington Times has an article, and it is about the curious murder of Seth Rich poses questions that just won't stay under the official rug. A lot of controversy, a lot of arguments that don't seem to hold water. And Q is asking, oh, why is this coming back in the news? Here's another article. Contradictions in the Seth Rich murder continue to challenge the Russian hacking narrative. I think we're going to find out pretty soon that the Russian hacking narrative is false. Seth Rich was murdered because he leaked the emails from the DNC server, and he was killed because of it. So I think Q is just getting us ready for the fact that that's going to become a bigger issue. And he asks why? Well, because people in the intelligence community may be leaking some information or something of that nature. There's a reason for it. So Q asks, why is Sessions acting weak? Oh, you mean it's an act? You mean like a play? Why? He has to, because the IG report is coming out soon. And as I explained in my latest news broadcast, Trump and Sessions have to do this. Trump needs the mainstream media to be in a position to accept whatever the Inspector General report says and whatever Sessions decides to do based on the report. So if Sessions acts weak, it gives the mainstream media a reason to embrace him and the Inspector General. It's all theater. So just, enjoy the show. Q mentions no legitimate leaks. There haven't been any leaks coming out of the Inspector General's office that were not planned. There have been drops of information coming out of the Inspector General's office, but they're going to Congress and they have a purpose. But there hasn't been any unintended leaks, I'll put it that way. So they're setting up the mainstream media because Trump's people are going to be bringing their own narrative, and they need the media to be ready for it. IG appointed by Sessions for what? Well, Inspector General actually wasn't appointed by Sessions, but he is working for Sessions, and he is investigating Uranium One, Clinton email investigation, a lot of other things, politicization of the FBI and DOJ. So, Inspector General reports coming out. Should be out and later this month or possibly in April. Enjoy the show. I'm getting ready, getting my popcorn ready. I talked about Trump and Sessions, and I believe this is all of a game. Cues, dead cat bounce. Well, what is that all about? Dead cat bounce is an investment term. It's just a short recovery in a long downtrend in the stock market. Was Q referring to the stock market or the deep state? Deep state's being taken down. They're in a long downtrend and they had a little recovery, or the mainstream media. Not exactly sure yet what that references to. Okay, so this is the next Q post. Q posted a graphic illustrating proof of identity. On January 13th, Q asked if we trusted the chain of command. On January 15th, Department of Defense tweeted a chain of command show on the Discovery Channel. And that show happened to have a mug in the background with a Q on it. So Q says, you know what, we are everywhere. And if you're interested, you can find this. It's just a little proof of who Q is. And speaking of who Q is, this is a good place to discuss speculation about who Q might be. All right. So a friend of mine who has been feeding me information, he's not in the intelligence community. He's just a guy who does research. He's been sending me information. He sent me this link, which takes you to a website that describes the organizational structure inside the NSA, which for years was kept secret. NSA and a lot of these agencies, they exist for a long time before anyone officially acknowledges them, before Congress acknowledges them, before we know they even exist. And I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes, but let me go to this website and we are going to look around here a little bit. This is electrospaces.net, and this particular page is NSA's organizational designations. So it's broken down into sections or directorates, if you want: signals intelligence, communications security, top-level communications. And down here, there is the directorate designated by letters. So the letter D corresponds to the Office of the Director of the NSA. The letter E corresponds to the education sector of the NSA. That is, if you click on that, it takes you down here. So there's an F, which is the field sites. There is a there's an I, which is Information Assurance Directorate. All right, so each directorate in the NSA has a letter in the directory that corresponds to it. And there is a Q. So if you click on the Q, it takes you to the Associate Directorate for Security and Counterintelligence, or the ADS and CI. Q0 is staff, and then there is a hierarchy here. So Q05, Security Ops Center, 07, 09, Q1, and then their Office of Physical Security, Q123. So you see this hierarchy, it just goes down. And this office, the Directorate for Security and Counterintelligence, is the NSA's police force. They have their own law enforcement agency that does investigations and prosecutes or recommends prosecution of criminal activity. This is the Q Directorate inside the NSA. And I am wondering, after I saw this, and a bunch of us are wondering, is Q actually a member of the Q Directorate? Because a lot of the stuff that Q posts seems to come out of the NSA. And I'll give you some more information on that. Go back here. So this is an article, and it is about the Q group in the Directorate of the NSA that is hunting down Edward Snowden. And let me click on this link and it'll take you to the article. So yes, this article is actually from 2000, it's by Eli Lake. And the timeline is 1244. June 10th of 2013. This is when the NSA was looking for Edward Snowden. And if you read this article, it's pretty interesting, but it talks about this directorate inside the NSA that is called the Q Group. And they have been tracking Snowden and trying to get him. And then from Hong Kong and all the places he's gone to in Russia. So there is evidently a Q Group inside the NSA that is going after Snowden. And since so much of what Q posts about is about Snowden, that gives me further reason to wonder if Q isn't a part of the Q directorate at the NSA. So for those of you who are asking who I think Q is, if I had to, make a bet, I would say Q is in that group. And let me just give you a couple of things to think about here. This was a post from February 16th, and it involves, Q is saying, hey, in the UK, stay alert. And this is a picture, it's a street cam, but notice the tag up here is NSA traffic cam. And I've noticed that quite a few of Q's posts seem to come from NSA sources. That is another reason why I suspect that, if I had to go and try to say who Q is, I would say it might be somebody in the NSA. All right. And again, let me make this clear. I am not saying that we've discovered where Q works and his team works or who Q is. I just find this stuff kind of interesting. My focus is not on trying to figure out who Q is. My focus is on taking the information Q gives us and interpreting the news and making us more aware of what's happening. So in this next Q post, Q, I think, wants to give us a bigger picture of the war that's going on between the CIA and the NSA. So I'm just going to read this to you. Expand your thinking. Who leaked Vault 7 to WL? Who returned fire? OP name Fiddler at Snowden. Mission 1, infiltrate. Mission 2, centralize. Mission 3, secure. Mission 4, expose to harm. And then there's date in parentheses. Also in parentheses, there's a WH interference, WH directive. Mission 5, Russia link. In parentheses, 2013 timeline of events. In parentheses, 11714. And then think, learn. Mission 6, Fiddler, Ghost, Prime. Mission 7, Class. Mission 8, Whistleblower Traps. Jobs C-3567K. Mission 9, Censorship. Class plus Relay Q. So it's a lot of information there. Let me break this down for you. So this is my interpretation. And I've been really trying to focus on the Snowden part of Q's posts. Because I think in order for you to really understand what Q is getting at least in the last month, you really have to understand what Snowden's part is in all of this. So first part of the CIA Snowden's operation consisted of 1, infiltrating the NSA. 2, centralize, gain access to critical data without being detected. All right, so when Snowden, and this is an article that explains almost all of this. I would definitely recommend reading this. Mission 3, secure data. Mission 4, exposed to harm, leaked to the press. All right. This article from The Guardian is actually, it's an excerpt from a book. And the author is Luke Harding. He wrote a book on Snowden. And this article is titled, How Edward Snowden Went from a Loyal NSA Contractor to Whistleblower. If you want to understand what happened with Snowden, read this article. It is very good. It explains, what Snowden did as a teenager, how he was online, geeking out on different internet chat boards as the true hoo-ha, his life in the early 20s, when he got into the military, why he got out of the military, when he got injured, his conservative views, some of his boasting and different things. And then, going to Maryland, getting a job in IT, working for the CIA, and then transferring over to the NSA. It talks about his first job at NSA in the Cryptological Center in Hawaii. He also worked overseas, I don't remember if it was Japan. That's right, he left Japan in 2012. So this article gives a really good timeline of where he went, what he did. The big deal with Snowden was when he moved to a different job inside the NSA. And let me zoom this in. You can see it a little bit better. We don't know exactly how he harvested the material, but it appears Snowden downloaded NSA documents onto thumbnail drives. Thumb drives are forbidden to most staff, but a sysadmin, system administrator, could argue that he or she was repairing a corrupted user file and needed a backup. So sitting in Hawaii, Snowden could remotely reach into the NSA servers. Most staff had already gone home for the night before he logged on, 6 time zones away. After 4 weeks in his new job, Snowden told his bosses at Booz Allen that he was unwell, he wanted some time off, requested unpaid leave. When they checked back with him, he said he had epilepsy. So he gained access to the NSA's servers and was able to use a thumb drive to download files, which is really strictly forbidden. But in his position, he was able to justify it, and that is how he gained access. So when Q says centralize, gain access without being detected, he was able to get in there, get access to files, download them, and as a sysadmin, there's really no way to track who it was that did that. So that's how he got through the system, got the information out without being detected. All right, so Q posted the next thing in this long chain was date. Snowden first made contact with Glenn Greenwald and Laura Poitras in April of 2013. He gave them sample documents that he had downloaded just to prove his identity and who he was. They didn't know who he was. Snowden actually portrayed himself as a senior analyst in the NSA, so they were expecting some guy in 40s or 50s probably, who had been in the agency a long time. They chatted via secure channel. Snowden invited them to go to Hong Kong. And the article says that Greenwald had a meeting with the Guardian's staff on the May 31st. They talked about it. He got the green light from his higher-ups, and then they flew there the next day. So as far as I know, they flew there on June 1st. Business Insider has a timeline of all of the known Snowden leaks concerning the NSA, and actually a lot of the information has to do with British intelligence, GCHQ. This is an excellent article. I would definitely recommend checking it out. If you don't know much about Snowden and his leaks, there's some good background information here, and then it goes down through everything that Snowden leaked between 2013 and 2014. It has links to the different leaks that he put out, and it just goes on and on. There's tons and tons of information on all the programs that the NSA had. This is an interesting graphic. This graphic actually made me go and do some research on an agency I didn't really know much about. Let me zoom in on this real quick and then see if I can find it after I zoom in on it. And this is official budgets, not kind of black ops. So the CIA is funded for $14.7 billion. National Security Agency, NSA, $10.8 billion. National Reconnaissance Office, $10.3 billion, just a little less than the NSA. Do you know who the National Reconnaissance Office is and what they do? Very few people know about the National Reconnaissance Office. It was created in 1960, and it wasn't officially recognized even by Congress publicly until 1973, and that was accidentally. Or actually, I should say reporters started reporting on the National Reconnaissance Office in 73, although nothing was known about them. Congress didn't officially talk about the National Reconnaissance Office until the 80s, and the Defense Department officially recognized them in the 90s. So they were secret for decades before anyone knew anything about them. You're going to find out about them in a few minutes. I'll give you some information on that. But the National Geospatial Intelligence Program gets $4.9 billion. General Defense Intelligence Program, $4.4. Justice Department, $3 billion. So I just found this interesting. And this article, if you're, like I said, if you're interested in learning about Snowden and his leaks and stuff, Business Insider, really good article. Definitely worth checking out. All right, going back to rabbit trail, back to what we're going. Q says this, and this is continuing from this really, really long post. All right, I'm just breaking this down into sections, and so that you're not distracted, let me show you where we're getting this from. Okay, this is this post, and we are just going down section by section, and we are not here, White House interference, White House directive. Okay, and we're just going to keep going through this. White House interference, White House directive. So the Guardian article that I just showed you about how Snowden went from being a loyal NSA contractor to a whistleblower. This article has some really damaging information in it, actually. Snowden delivered a bombshell after some back and forth with Greenwald and Poitras. Snowden said he'd gotten a hold of a Presidential Policy Directive number 20, a top secret 18-page document issued in October 2012. It said that the agency was tapping fiber optic cables, intercepting telephone landing points, and bugging on a global scale. And he could prove all of it. I almost fainted, Poitras said. The source made clear he wanted Greenwald on board. All right. So this is talking about President Obama authorizing the fiber optic cables that go to Europe and around the world that carry communication, internet communication, and phone calls. Obama authorized the NSA to bug those cables and to do global surveillance. And I think when Q says White House interference and directive, that's one of the things that he's referring to, but not the only one. There's some other ones. All right. So Q says Mission 5 Russia link. CIA helped Snowden defect to Russia. He used his own, and this article, again, gives you really good background information. It talks about the fact that Snowden used his own name at the hotel, his own credit cards. He wasn't going undercover. He was using his own name. And there was a national security, a global national security hold on Snowden, and they were supposedly trying to apprehend Snowden, but he got through. So Q continually asks, how did Snowden get through? With a worldwide security hold, how does he clear customs? How does he end up in Russia? Coincidence? Who was the first agency he worked for? Who taught him the game? Who assigned him with foreign ops? It was all CIA. So then, so that the link, the Russia link, is important because there is something or someone in Russia that, and probably a CIA asset, that was assisting Snowden in getting to Russia. And we are going to cover more on this in a few minutes, so sit tight. All right. Q says, continuing in that long post, 1/17/14, just a date. Think, learn. It just so happens that on January 17th, 2014, President Obama gave an address outlining reforms to the NSA in the wake of Snowden's leaks. I believe that's what Q is referring to. This is a Washington Post article. I'll click on it. There is a speech. You can listen to it. It's a video. There is also a transcript on this page, and you can read it if you want. It has some very interesting information in it. I'm not going to read all of it, obviously, but there are a couple of things that I think are worth noting, and let me show you what they are. So here's an excerpt from the article, and it may be what Q is referring to as a presidential directive. President Obama went through and talked about the issues with security and problems that had come up, and now he's proposing his corrections. He outlines, I think, 4 different things that he's going to propose to correct the problems and deficiencies that were found. First, I have approved a new presidential directive for our signals intelligence activities both at home and abroad. This guidance will strengthen executive branch oversight of our intelligence activities. It will ensure that we take into account our security requirements, but also our alliances, our trade and investment relationships, including the concerns of American companies and our commitment to privacy and basic liberties. And we will review decisions about intelligence priorities and sensitive targets on an annual basis so that our actions are regularly scrutinized by my senior national security team. So that is a presidential directive, which is one of the things that Q asked us to look for. And the date was January 17th, 2014. So again, like I said, you can read this article. It gives you a lot of information, just hitting highlights here. President Obama created a review group, probably some of his friends and insiders, who determined that, well, the review group turned up no indication that the NSA database had been intentionally abused, and I believe it is important that the capability that this program is designed to meet is preserved. So Obama in this speech is trying to reassure people that there is no abuse of the NSA database, that everything is hunky-dory, we have nothing to worry about. Except things like this. So if you've been following Conservative Treehouse Sundance, you're familiar with this document probably. This is one of the documents that came out of the FISA court ruling a couple of years ago. It was actually, this document came out in 2016. It was declassified in 2017. And it talks about the FBI allowing private contractors to access raw FISA information on FBI storage systems without having proper clearance or using minimization procedures and training. And the NSA found, the FISA court found that this had been going on for multiple years. And this is not something that just popped up on the radar. And that's what the big controversy was about with renewal of FISA 702 this year. So third, President Obama says, and I'm just going to read this. Third, we will provide additional protections for activities conducted under Section 702, the FISA, which allows the government to intercept the communications of foreign targets overseas who have information that's important for our national security. Specifically, I'm asking the Attorney General and Director of National Intelligence to institute reforms that place additional restrictions on government's ability to retain, search, and use in criminal cases communications between American and foreign citizens incidentally collected under 702. So here Obama is telling us that he's going to place further restrictions on 702 so it can't be abused. And what happens in the following 2 or 3 years? We have been learning that Obama's senior staff, Security Council people, were unmasking people like crazy and basically weaponizing the intelligence community. So, I don't know, just things that we need to be aware of, and more reason why I'm glad that these issues are being addressed. So continuing in that long post, Q says, Mission 6, Fiddler, Ghost Prime. I do not know what that means. I haven't seen any anons who have come up with a good interpretation or decode of that. Mission 7, Class, I believe that means classified. Don't know what that means. Maybe if I get a higher security clearance, I can figure it out. Mission 8. Whistleblower traps, jobs C3567K. CIA traps. So Q has been talking a lot about the whistleblower problems. The CIA, it seems, has taken over control of SecureDrop, Tor browser, and other apps that are endorsed by Snowden. And they are trapping whistleblowers. They're telling them this software is safe, it's secure, you can use it as a whistleblower, and it's all going to the CIA. So I'm going to move along. Class plus relay was the last thing on that post. I have no idea what that means. One of these days, I might figure it out. Moving along. So Q asks this, we've seen this before. It's a link to YouTube video. Listen carefully. Trust. We are fighting for you. God bless you all. Q. And it is that YouTube video that says this video will get Donald Trump elected. I am not going to play the video because on YouTube, I don't want to get a strike against me. I would recommend listening to the video. I listened to it again, and it does talk, President does talk in very specific terms about the kind of corruption that he is interested in taking down. Q posted again. Boom. And we had a headline. Boom, USA is set to be the world's largest oil producer. This is a Drudge headline. So we're talking about an oil boom in the US. That's one of the booms. So this is the next Q post. And I'm going to read it for you. Do you trust the mainstream media? Do you trust Facebook? Do you trust Google? Do you trust YouTube? Do you trust Twitter? Narrative. Censorship. Do not blindly believe. Fake. They want you divided. Together you are strong. Apart you are weak. Organize, challenge, fight. Do you think Antifa was grown organically? Purpose? Watch the news this week. Well, I don't trust any of those social media platforms. I have known and believed for a long time that the Facebook application, the chat messenger, has been put in place to record us, take data from us, information, conversations, and it goes right to the CIA database. That's why I resisted having the Messenger app installed on my phone for a long time. I finally gave in and installed it some time ago, but I recently uninstalled it again because it drives me crazy. Messenger on the Android phone has a little circle that pops up on your screen when somebody sends you a message. And I'm sick and tired of those little circles popping up on my screen when I'm doing a broadcast on Periscope or I want to do something and I hit that little circle and it opens up a message on Messenger that I didn't want to open. It drives me crazy. So I actually uninstalled Messenger on my phone last week. And I'm going to leave it uninstalled because it just drives me crazy. Anyway, Q is getting at don't trust them. They are treating us like sheep. It's about the narrative. Do you think Antifa was grown organically? No, I don't. Actually, I think Antifa was funded and people were recruited through Soros-funded money. And hey, by the way, once the Soros money dries up, what happens to Antifa? They go away. Watch the news this week. It's Wednesday. Keep watching. All right. Next Q post. Do you believe in coincidences? White House suicide and the Hannity intruder. Narrative threat. All right, so we know about the White House suicide. This is an article about the Hannity intruder. Some guy, old guy, rambled into Hannity's house, and his wife, Hannity's wife, was home. Sean wasn't there. The guy was arrested for breaking in. But how safe would you feel if a stranger made their way into your home that you thought was relatively secure? Hannity has a pretty big mansion in New York, and He's got security. He's got, you know, motion detectors and stuff. You know, you want to feel secure and safe in your house, but having some random guy walk in there would not make you feel very secure. And Q is saying, look, they're doing this because they're trying to threaten and intimidate people like Hannity, John Solomon, Sarah Carter. Q has said in the past that Solomon is being protected because his life is in danger. And this is the next post. And Anon wondered if Q had mentioned the Internet Bill of Rights in the past. Oh, I would say not this week, but pretty regularly. Q talks about the Internet Bill of Rights. So Q says, reread the drops, and it has a link to the AT&T.com story about consumers need an Internet Bill of Rights. All right. More to come on that in just a few minutes. Here is a link to that article. And Q then asks, why do so-called patriots challenge the Internet Bill of Rights? Be careful about who you follow. This is a post from the night, it was the morning after actually. There was that roast that President Trump attended. It was at the Gridiron Dinner, and it was a Comedy Central roast where a bunch of really bad comedians spent a lot of time telling really bad jokes about the president. I listened to some of them and I was not impressed. So that's what Q is referring to. A boom, 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 boom. Q is booming. What are we booming about, Q? John Lee Hooker. Let me get the. I am going to play this a little bit. This is not copyrighted.
Boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna shoot you right down, right off of your feet. Take you home with me, put you in my house. Boom, 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 boom.
All right, you get the idea. I don't know if Q is a fan of John Lee Hooker, but it's nice to have music every once in a while. All right, so Q then posts, hey, first boom was revealed. Did you catch it? The last will be magical. I think we did catch the first boom. It was the oil boom that Drudge put up. Back here, USA was set to be the world's largest producer of oil, surpassing Russia in the next few years. And we have more booms coming. Don't worry. We're just getting started. So Q posted this. Hey Snowden, welcome to China. Border crossing, -3. Spartans in darkness, Q. All right, are you ready? Get your seatbelt on? Okay. Spartans in Darkness is a book containing previously classified intelligence information that describes the history of signals intelligence during the Vietnam, or as the author refers to it, the Indochina War. Here's a link to the PDF. You can just, if you search Spartans of Darkness, you'll find it. Interesting book. I'm just going to show you this and give you some idea what it's about. How could such a war, the Vietnam War, which signals intelligence had covered since 1950, that is, at its peak involved as many as 10,000 cryptologists from a number of allied nations, not be worth a serious historical consideration? By ignoring its past, how much had the American signals intelligence community impoverished its sense of historical continuity? What stories and what truths were buried under the silence? What could American cryptologists learn about themselves and their performance during the war? And what lessons could we carry into the future? That's a summary of what this book is about. It is a historical perspective on signal intelligence during the Vietnam War. And did you know that there were 10,000 people working as cryptologists during the Vietnam War? Yes, that is one of the things And I would say this. The reason why I think it might be worth reading this book, and I have not read it, is if you want to understand the language that Q uses. A lot of what Q uses is signals intelligence code language. I think Q is trying to help us learn his language. The people who work in the NSA and cryptology, they have their own language. They have their own winks, their own nods, their own way of talking. And I think Q is asking us to get a little better trained and equipped for the job ahead of us. This is the Wikipedia page for signals intelligence. It tells you a little bit what it's about. If you want even more information, this is a link to the nsa.gov about page if you go to frequently asked questions. If you're curious to know more, the NSA does have some information on signals intelligence. All right, an Anon posted this image and Q responded. Hey, what's with Rocket Man? Q says, water. Why is this a big event? What does it signify? Why is NK out of the news as the world turns? Q. All right. So the photo was taken at this week's meeting between North and South Korea, where they're discussing unification, among other things. North Korea is out of the mainstream media news because the clowns who control North Korea don't like these peace talks because it threatens their control. And this is an article that talks about the negotiations going on between North and South Korea. And that's where the picture came from. And the picture is kind of important. Q posted again, watch the water. All right. So we've been wondering for a long time, what the heck does watch the water mean? Q then posted this, watch the water. Big news big news week, not over yet, Q. And this is a better image. Watch the water. Notice turbulent seas. Notice calm ocean. All right. So, and Anon had noticed that North Korea is talking about denuclearization. That's this post. Q responds to that. Wait and see. Reread drops. You have more than you know. Eyes in the sky. Sum of all fears. Q. So, what is that all about? Well, let's talk about eyes in the sky. So, Q has previously referred to owls and good hunting. This is a post from December. Enough is enough. And then there's some confusing code there. And then this Q writes, owls, good hunting. All right, what are the owls and what's the eye in the sky about? Well, in doing my digging and research on the National Reconnaissance Office, my wife, Denise, found out that like NASA, they have mission patches, and they create all these different patches and images for different missions. National Reconnaissance Office does the same thing. They have a lot of different patches that they create. By the way, the National Reconnaissance Office manages a satellite intelligence program. They provide satellite imagery and intelligence to the NSA, CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and all the other intelligence agencies. And in 2000, one of their symbols that they used was an owl. National Reconnaissance Office, we own the night. So knowing that one of the symbols for the National Reconnaissance Office is an owl, is that sort of a decode when Q is referring to the owls? Good hunting. Maybe. I don't know. I just found that interesting. So Q mentions Sum of All Fears. It was a 2002 spy thriller film, which was based on a Tom Clancy novel. Basically, the U.S. and Russia avoid World War III through the actions of Jack, the spy. And I think Q is just saying that we are avoiding World War III by getting North Korea to go to the table and negotiate denuclearization. So Q made some observations about this picture. Calm, tranquil, setting sun, dusk. Peaceful end to the 70-year-old nightmare. No more division, no more fuse. The setting sun of the fake half of the hermit kingdom in a tranquil manner. Kim Boyd looks beaten, puffing out his chest in a last act of defiance. So an Anon asked a valid question. Hey Q, how did you know they were going to be in front of that picture this time? Q says, trust the plan. Q knows stuff. All right. And by the way, I don't think that that is the only decode for watch the water. A lot of people have been talking about different ways to interpret that watch the water thing. And Q says, hey, learn to, well, I'll show you. This is, Q says, learn double meanings. All right. So some of the things, actually a lot of the things that Q says have double meanings. This, the peace talks between North and South Korea and the water is one potential meaning of watch the water, but there are probably others. So not worth getting in an argument about what one particular decode means. There could be several, and we've seen that in the past. All right, so Q posted this reminder. Future proofs past, you have much more than you know. Biggest intel drop in our known history, Q. That's one of the reasons why I am really honored to be doing these Q posts. Is this is the biggest intelligence drop that citizens, average people like you and I, have ever had. And I am excited as heck to be a part of it. All right. You saw a preview of the next post. Q says, learn double meanings. News unlocks map. Why is steel so important? Expand your thinking. And there's a link here to a PDF, and it's just an image. This is the full image. This is a CIA report, and it is on the Red October steel plant in Stalingrad, Russia. The Red October steel plant in Stalingrad was obliterated during World War II. It was rebuilt by the Soviets. So, double meaning, right? So previously, Q had been telling us about the hunt for Red October, and then the hunt for was taken away. And then Red October referred to something else. And this is one of the things. So why is this relevant? What does this mean, right? That's what Q is always asking. By the way, here's the Wikipedia page. Here's actually a Wikipedia page for the Red October steel plant. Krasny October, also called the Red October. If you want some information on that, you can check it out. All right. So Q asks, why was the hunt for removed from Red October? Expand your thinking. Now, this reference to the steel plant, Red October, is not about money or trade. The map has everything. News and tweets unlock the map. So it's not just the news now, it's the news and tweets that will unlock the map. And people have different ideas about what the map is. Some people believe that the map Q is referring to is the total sum of all of Q's posts. If you just go look at all of Q's posts, you'll come up with the map. And that's what the map is. Other people believe that it is a diagram that was created by someone, I don't know who it was, but it has a bunch of headings at the top, and it has all these interconnecting spider web of lines connecting, Illuminati groups and Masons and Jesuits and the Pope and all these other people. There are differing views on what the map is, but Q says the map has everything, except what Q has not yet posted. Almost everything. All right. Q posted this. Do you believe in coincidences? Only the beginning. And there is a link to a Reuters article, which is this article, which is a report revealing that Japan's third largest steelmaker, Kobe, fraudulently certified inferior grade steel for nearly 50 years. The CEO is resigning in shame amid the scandal. So you can look up that article if you want. One of the Anons answers Q's question. Steel was produced in our country. These cities are blue strongholds still, and many are located around areas of poor communities, or poor minorities. Since mills closed and wealth has left the area, if Trump brings these people back in to work, he can effectively eliminate blue-collar, poor black Democrat areas, American Steel. And another Anon had this to say. Steel is important to Defense Department for weapons, planes, ships, tanks, satellites, etc. And for GNP, gross national product output, as automobile plants. Steel is important for infrastructure and rebuilding. So Q says, good work, Anons. You have 1 of 5 and 2 of 5 reasons why steel is important. So Q goes on to say, what if the steel that was used for military grade projects was made inferior by our enemies as a method to weaken? What if Hussein, Obama, knew about it and authorized it? Renegade. How many Marines volunteered to serve Hussein during his term? Why? What if his name, we don't say, organized the deal? U.S. taxpayers subsidize the world. America has been sold to the highest bidder. America has been weakened on purpose. The depths of their treason is unimaginable. Pure evil. Hell on earth, Hillary victory. Q. For those of you who are not familiar, what if his name we don't say? That is John McCain. Q doesn't say his name because he is considered to be one of the worst traitors ever. How many Marines volunteered to serve during Obama's term in office? You know, there's memes going around saying that no Marines volunteered to serve. I don't know that that can be proven, but that is, what is commonly believed. Why? What if Obama knew about and authorized inferior grade steel to weaken the military and our infrastructure? Renegade. Just to let you know, Renegade was actually Barack Obama's Secret Service code name. All of the presidents and all of their family members have code names. Obama's was Renegade. Michelle Obama's code name was Renaissance. Trump's code name is Mogul. Melania's is Muse. And so you can research that. I'm going to go back up here. In response to the article about Japan's steel fraud, one of the Anons says, linked this article, and then Q says, these people are stupid, wait for Russia and China reports, sabotage, investigation, strike 9999999. Q. So what I think Q is saying is that the inferior grade steel from Japan is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to learn about inferior grade steel from Russia, China, and other nations, and that's coming. So, going to the next Q post. Q is looking forward to a parade. 11/11/18, a parade that will never be forgotten. Ask yourself why. God bless our brave men and women in uniform. We will never forget. Q. This is in reference to the Veterans Day parade that President Trump has directed to take place on this November 11th. And Anon posted this observation about Viktor Pinchuk, the Ukrainian steel magnate who contributed $1 million to the Clintons. I'm just going to read it. More steel connections with Hillary Rodham Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. One of the attendees at these conferences speaks to the stickiness of some donor relationships. Viktor Pinchuk, a steel magnate whose father-in-law, Leonid Kuchma, was president of the Ukraine from 1994 to 2005, has directed between $10 million and $25 million to the Clinton Foundation. He has sent his private plane to the Clintons, traveled to Los Angeles in 2011 to attend Mr. Clinton's star-studded 64th birthday celebration. Between September 2011 and November 2012, Douglas Schoen, a former political consultant for Mr. Clinton, arranged about a dozen meetings with State Department officials on behalf of or with Mr. Pinchuk to discuss the continuing political crisis in Ukraine. According to reports, Mr. Schoen filed as a registered lobbyist. I had breakfast with Pinchuk. He will see you at the Brookings lunch. Milan Verveer, a Ukrainian American then working for the State Department, wrote in a June 2012 email to Mrs. Clinton. There is a link to a New York Times article. Q says, keep digging, Anon. They all have foundations and institutes for a reason. Stupid Q. All right, this is the link that the Anon posted. New York Times headline is Foundation Ties Bedevil Hillary Clinton's Presidential Campaign. And it just, like the Anon says, it creates problems, or it illustrates the problems that the Clintons have with respect to donations. And the problem with these foundations and institutes that politicians have is it really seems like it's just a way to hide bribery. Because bribing public officials is illegal, but public officials still want to get paid for the political favors that they do. Politicians create institutes and foundations, and people make donations to them. And what happens when someone makes a large donation or contribution to a politician? They get political favors. You don't call it a bribe, but essentially that it is a bribe, and that is what Q is getting at. The reason why they have foundations and institutes is so that they can get money from people to do political favors. All right, moving along, one of the Anons asked Q for confirmation that President Trump and Q were over North Korea when this picture was taken. 111 days before Monday, this image was taken. Did we decide it was North Korea? And here's a little better image. President Trump tweeted this out. It's a short video looking out the window. And Trump says, thank you, Asia. Did you think that the Asia Live original post was for nothing? There's an equal sign, Q. I think Q is confirming that it was North Korea. All right, moving along. I'm just going to read this next post. Is the stage set for a drop of HRC? And then there are a bunch of plus signs. There's 3 plus signs, 1 plus sign, and then 5 plus signs. And then in parentheses, raw vid 5:5, and then EX-RVID 5774. We have it all. Reread regarding stage, the nail in many coffins, liberal undo in brackets, also in brackets, impossible to defend, in brackets, toxic to those connected. We must work together. We are only as strong as your voice. You must organize and be heard. This is why they keep you divided and in the dark. We are here to unite and provide truth. Dark to light, evil surrounds us. We are fighting for you. Where we go one, we go all. The choice to know will be yours. Brackets, end Q. All right, so I believe Q here is talking about the stage being set for a drop of a Hillary video. Raw, which means unedited. 5x5 is a military term for loud and clear, or an aviation term. XR vid, X-rated vid. We have it all. Of course, NSA has everything. Reread regarding stage. Is the stage set? And there is no question mark in this one. So I think Q is suggesting that a video is about to be released. that is going to be very damaging, and whoever is involved in it, whoever tries to defend it, is going to be, it's going to be impossible to defend, toxic to anyone who's connected to it. Some people have asked, how could Q and his team legally post a pornographic video? I don't know. I have no idea. Is that, and under most circumstances, wouldn't that be illegal? Yes, it would be. I don't know how they plan to do that, but these guys are pretty smart people, and if they need to do something, they'll find out a way to do it legally. So my answer to that question is, I don't know how they plan to do it. I don't know a way to do it legally, but these people are smarter than me. So if they need to do it, they'll figure it out. Yeah, one Anon weighed in on the prospects of a public release of the Hillary video. Worst part of this proof is going to be the Hillary sex tapes. Kidding aside, I don't want to see that to begin with. I'm going to go throw up now for good measure. One of the Anons asked if the pluses in the post is a date. There's 3 and then 1 and then 5 plus signs, as in 315. Q has not confirmed that yet, so it's just a guess. I just thought it was interesting. Every Anon responds their own way. One of the Anons came up with this brilliant idea. Hey Q, drop the video, play it in Times Square. Q says, stage set, question mark. So and this time there is a question mark. Is the stage set? Google, Facebook, Twitter, etc. are regulated. MSM is controlled. Use logic. Trust the plan. Q. And then he posts again. Logic says they would not report it. Total viewers limited. Message controlled. Truth shadows. Trust the plan. Q. So they have a plan. I don't know what the plan is, but evidently they have a plan on how they're going to roll this out. In anticipation of the Hillary video being released, there is now a buzz about how easy it is to put someone's face on another person's body in a video. And Q says, try as they might, fail they will, no free passes, mainstream media, Q. So Q is basically saying when this video comes out, they're going to try to knock it down. They're going to say, oh, that's not really Hillary. They just, used software technology to put her face on somebody else's body. This is linked to the article. It's a New York Times article. Here come the fake videos too. You can just see how this war is going back and forth. This is Q's next post. And I'll just read it to you. There is a WikiLeaks link at the top. So much is open source, so much left to be connected. Why are the children in Haiti in high demand? How are they smuggled out? Adoption process. Local staging ports friendly to Clinton Foundation. Track donations. Cross against location relative to Haiti. Think logically. The choice to know will be yours. When I first started following the FBI Anon agent on 4chan a couple years ago, I started following those threads because I was investigating the Clinton Foundation at the time. And the FBI Anon agent kept on saying, it's all about the Clinton Foundation. Find out who the donors are. Find out about their donations. Cross-reference everything. Find the companies. Assume everybody who is involved in the Clinton Foundation is guilty. Because there's only one reason why people, really big donors, donate to the Clinton Foundation. It's to get political favors, and it has to do with human trafficking, weapons trafficking. I mean, the Clinton Foundation was essentially the bank account for people who wanted political favors. And I have done a lot of research on that. In the coming broadcasts, I'll probably bring out some of the information that I dug up on the Clinton Foundation. I'll try to be led by Q as Q drops information, but I've already done a fair amount of research on this that may prove useful. So Q is basically saying, look, there's a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot of open source information. We need to connect the dots. And this link at the top of this post goes to a WikiLeaks Clinton email archive, which is news reports on the missing kids in Haiti. And then Q posts again. This is a second link to a WikiLeaks Clinton emails dump. Who are we taught to trust the most? This will not be easy. The end. Q. And that link goes to this WikiLeaks Clinton email archive. U.S. Baptists, missionaries, knew that removing kids was wrong. And you can go check that out if you want. Who are people taught to trust? They're taught to trust church leaders, and the church leaders were actually involved in part of this, which makes it even more sad. So Q then posted this link, learn, and there's a link to a PDF document. I could not go very far into reading this document. It's just very disgusting and disheartening. The link takes you to a rather disturbing document. It's on the CIA website. Reveals how the CIA collaborated with Nazi criminals after World War II. And it just exposes more darkness from the CIA. So you can go to that link if you want to. I'm not gonna go there right now because I don't want to end up getting all emotional over this. So I wanted to share this with you. These are testimonies from some of the Anons that were posted on February 26th. This Anon says, "This whole Q situation has converted me from an atheist to a Christian. Mock me if you must." So one of the Anons responds, "Same here, buddy. I grew up in a Catholic family but never believed until Q came along. And my belief is so strong, it's unreal. Very, very powerful stuff has happened here." Another Anon responds, "I've been keeping it to myself, but same here." And one Anon says, "I went to church for the first time in over a decade yesterday. I have never felt the belief before, but I physically feel it now." And this Anon says, "That's encouraging and good to hear, Anon. A prayer I have is that all of us, this evil being exposed, will wake the masses." Looks like it started to be answered. And I agree. I think that as evil is exposed, it is going to wake people up spiritually. And I think we are going to see a spiritual awakening in our country as a result of this. And that is another reason why I'm involved in this project. So we took a break, and then Q started posting again today. This is from this afternoon. Q says, "Shall we play a game? Find Snowden. IDEN +1. Happy hunting, Q." And I looked, and I have not seen any Anons who have identified that picture. I'm guessing that it's an NSA picture where they're tracking where Snowden is going, probably somewhere in China. And then I would be remiss if I did not post this. This "Shall we play a game?" reference to a famous movie from the 80s, War Games. And now you don't have to send me emails because I didn't make this reference. Thank you for the emails. Q posted this. And it's a couple of security tests this afternoon, and then hashtag Internet Bill of Rights, Q. And today, the state of Washington became the first state to sign into law a net neutrality bill. And there is a lot of confusion about net neutrality. It sounds like a great thing. It sounds like something we should do. Everyone should be in favor of net neutrality, right? Well, the problem with net neutrality is that this is actually kind of a misnomer. What it is really is government control of the internet. The government, through a net neutrality, took control of the internet and tried to regulate it. And the argument the government makes is, well, internet providers can throttle people and cut back their internet speeds, unfairly. And so we need to control that. Well, what it really is about giving more power and control to bureaucrats, corporatists, and lobbyists. And it's my belief that the free market should control the internet. That if, and we've seen this in the past. We've seen how the internet will control itself and police itself. The free market system works. An illustration that I used previously is when cell phone providers started getting competitive with their rate plans and their data plans. My company, T-Mobile, was, I think, fourth of all the American internet providers or cell phone providers. And when they got rid of their mandatory two-year contracts and came out with a flat rate, $50 a month, unlimited data, unlimited text, it gave them a leg up, and they leapfrogged and took over third place in the market for cell phone providers. And it was because of competition, and they forced other cell phone providers to drop their rates. Some of them got rid of contracts, and it made it more competitive. And the providers actually gave consumers more data, better service for less money. And to me, those are the kind of forces, market forces, actually work in creating a level playing field. It's competitiveness. We don't need government to regulate that. And Q has been warning us that net neutrality is not what people think it is, and that an internet bill of rights is what we really need. So Q posted this a little while ago. Snowden, we're going live -24, brackets comb your hair. Ray Ibor, that's internet bill of rights. This scares them more than anything. Loss of control. Use logic. Nothing to do with AT&T. Must be regulated to prevent censorship and narrative push. Q. So here Q is saying, I think we're going to be getting a message from someone in the Trump administration in the next -24, countdown, 24 hours. They don't like the loss of control. It doesn't have to do with anything with AT&T. It is about defeating the stranglehold that the mainstream media and Google and Facebook have. So I am anticipating that in the next 24 hours, we're going to get something from maybe Ajit Pai, who is the President Trump's FCC chair, or someone talking about the Internet Bill of Rights. That's what I think Q is getting at. All right, Q posted this. How did Snowden clear customs and immigration in HK, Hong Kong, after the public release of information? Why wouldn't he first travel to his final destination prior to public release? He ended up in Russia. If wanted by the U.S. government, would he be cleared to travel? Who provided support to escape? Who was the U.S. after during this time? J.A. Julian Assange, have you learned and eliminated L-6? Use logic. Q. So Q has talked about this in the past. How did Snowden clear customs and immigration with a worldwide national security hold on him? He had to have help from someone, and I believe he had help from the CIA. He stopped in Hong Kong because Hong Kong, the People's Republic of China, is probably sympathetic, or maybe they had some CIA assets in the area who protected him. The interesting thing, again, about Snowden is he stopped in Hong Kong, used his own name to get his hotel room, used his own credit cards while he was there. He was actually in a fairly expensive hotel, and he was not apprehended. No one came and got him. I'm guessing that the government worked with the CIA to give safe passage to Snowden. And it was a safe place for him to land before he went to Russia. So then Q asks, who was the U.S. after at the time? The U.S. was going after Julian Assange. This is in June of 2013. He had taken refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. And Q says, have you learned and eliminated L6? I did a little bit of research. I don't know what L6 is. Sorry about that. I don't have all the answers yet. All right. So Q just recently posted this. Who controls social media? Who performs in a circus? Who wrote the code to embed and censor across multiple platforms? Why Russia? Why China? Why Hong Kong? Why did ES himself arrange a C-link in multiple countries? Learn. Q. So this is my decode. The clowns, CIA, perform in a circus. Clowns control social media. Clowns wrote the censorship code used on social media and platforms. China and Hong Kong are where electronic devices are made. Most of them, anyway. And why Russia? Well, I'm going to take a guess. Russia is where Kaspersky Labs is based. Russian companies are notoriously corrupt, and they can be used to accomplish nefarious purposes, like something the CIA would want to do. So this is an article from New York Times. It's an opinion piece. And it talks about why is the government using Kaspersky Labs software when Kaspersky is really close and probably part of Putin's government. There's some questions here about, is Kaspersky trustworthy? Kaspersky is big in security software. So why did Snowden go to Russia? Maybe it was because he was going to take his information, join up with Kaspersky, and they could do some creepy stuff with the software that the government, our government, is using. I don't know. What do you think? All right. ES. So whenever Q posts ES, you have to determine, is it Eric Schmidt or is it Edward Snowden? And the context will usually tell you which one Q is referring to. And Q asks, why did ES personally set up back channel communications? We know this because Q has posted in the past about Eric Schmidt's trip to North Korea, where he, ostensibly was there on humanitarian reasons to help free someone they had kept as a prisoner, but he was actually there setting up back channel communications, C-link, com-link, in multiple countries. North Korea is one. Schmidt has probably gone to Russia, China, Hong Kong, and set up secure links there to help the CIA run their operations. Why Schmidt? He has access to the technology, and he does whatever the puppet masters say because they own him. And there are many articles on Schmidt's trip to North Korea if you want to go check those out. All right. And Anon noted that Edward Snowden's girlfriend, Lindsay Mills, was a circus performer. Snowden's girlfriend performs in a circus. Also, John Le Carey's George Smiley worked out of the circus. Q responds, the father is who? I'm guessing he's referring to the father of Snowden's girlfriend. And just for clarification, this book, The Circus, is actually the British intelligence agency in this novel. So this is an interview with Jonathan Mills, who is the father of Edward Snowden's girlfriend. Snowden dated her for about 5 years when he lived in Hawaii, and he was working for the CIA and the NSA. And it's just an article where the father says that his daughter is barely hanging on after Snowden left her. So information if you want to go check that out. So Anon had a confession for Q, and I'm just going to read this. It's a very long post. I confess I was an Internet Bill of Rights resistor. It didn't make sense to me since free speech is already guaranteed in the Constitution. But thinking logically, something that Q asks us to do once in a while, the one thing that would scare the data mining cabal most is an articulated right to privacy when using the internet. No more data mining for ads. No more algorithms screwing up how we communicate with others on Facebook. No more capturing my favorite soda to sell to a competitor who might want to make me buy something else. Also, and really important to me, is the right to be forgotten. It's already been adjudicated in Britain. Here is a bit of the detail, and there's a link to a Guardian article. We should have the right to disappear. So if this continues to be a thing, think of it way beyond being censored for free speech. Think of it in terms of privacy too. No more selling personal information, no more dedicated IPs to track your every move, no more email apps that pre-select your possible replies, because no more email is being mined. Mail could be configured with the same privacy rights as US mail, for example. Last, I'll post on this one, but if it goes forward, please consider expanding the scope. Also keep in mind that there's more than the White House petition site to make your ideas known. Most of us have senators and congressmen to represent us in Washington, D.C. Maybe talk to a real person. So Q responds, free speech does not apply in a private company setting. The risk? Loss of revenue. Backstopped by the circus. Learn. Social media control is everything. The age of the mainstream media is over, Q. So what Q is getting at here is that we all think we have free speech, but we really don't when we step onto a private company's website or social media platform. You really don't have free speech on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. They can ban you, they can take you out of the algorithms, they can delete your posts, and they often do, delete your account. They can do whatever they want because they're a private company. And the Constitution and free speech does not apply in a private company. If you walk into the door of your employer can actually tell you that certain types of speech are prohibited if they want to. They do have the ability to restrict your free speech as a private company. So what is the risk? If we all left Facebook, if we all left Twitter, left whatever social media platforms we're on, they lose ad revenue, and that is backstopped by the CIA. So Q is asking us to learn. Their way of controlling us little sheeple is through social media. And our way to break that stranglehold is to fight back. So the link in the Anon's article is actually this link right here. This is really strange too, this Guardian article. I'll click on it. It is an article about Europe's social media privacy laws and the fact that Britain wants to opt out of them. So Europe has passed a right to be forgotten law, which gives users, rather than the service providers, control of personal data, where you can just opt out and say, hey, I don't want you hanging on to any of my data. I want you to delete all my information, get rid of it, don't hang on to it. And you can do that in Europe. Britain at this time was trying to get out of that. Let's see, we are getting down near the end. This was a petition for the Internet Bill of Rights that if you're interested, you can go there. It's just petitions.whitehouse.gov/petition American Internet Bill of Rights. And that is all I have. Now I'm going to go on this Q page and see if we have any new posts. I'll refresh it. Nothing new there. And on the other one, nothing new there. So that gets us all caught up. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. Hey, this is Praying Medic. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting me financially. Thank you for sharing this with your friends. Thank you for keeping us in prayer. Love you all. We are praying for you all. Keep the message going, and I will catch you on the next broadcast.